Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to the part 2 of the human heart series. In this lecture, we will be learning about the cardiac cycle of the heart, the pacemaker, and ECG. Let's start with the cardiac cycle. The cardiac cycle is defined as the sequence of events that take place during the completion of one heartbeat. The duration of one heartbeat in humans is zero point 0.8 seconds. As we learned in the previous video that the heart consists of four chambers: the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium and the left ventricle. So the alternate contraction and relaxation of the chambers of the heart basically constitutes the cardiac cycle. The cardiac cycle is majorly composed of four phases: the atrial diastole, atrial systole, ventricular diastole and ventricular systole. Diastole means relaxation and systole means contraction. Atrial diastole refers to atrial relaxation and atrial systole refers to atrial contraction, whereas ventricular systole refers to ventricular contraction and ventricular diastole refers to ventricular relaxation. The events of atrial diastole and ventricular systole take place simultaneously. This means that when the atria are relaxed, the ventricles will be contracted. Similarly, atrial systole and ventricular diastole take place simultaneously, which means that when the atria will be relaxed, the ventricles will be contracted. Let's start with atrial diastole. In this phase, the atrial chambers are relaxed, the volume of atria increases, the pressure inside atria decreases, and eventually blood flows into the atria from their respective blood vessels. In the atrial systolic phase, the atria are contracted. The volume of atria decreases, the pressure inside them increases, and the blood flows out of atria into the ventricle at high pressure. Ventricular diastole is the relaxation of the ventricles. The volume of the ventricles increases, the pressure inside them decreases, and the blood is received in them from the atria. This event is followed by ventricular systole, which is the contraction of the ventricles. In this phase, the volume of the ventricles decreases, the pressure inside them increases, and the blood flows out of the ventricles. Now let's discuss the complete flow of blood through the heart involving the contraction and relaxation of the heart chambers. So first of all, when the atria are relaxed, the deoxygenated blood that is collected from the upper and the lower body by the superior and the inferior vena cava respectively is sent into the right atrium. Meanwhile, the left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs via pulmonary vein. Now, when the ventricles are relaxed or during ventricular diastole, the deoxygenated blood passes from the right atrium into the right ventricle via tricuspid valve, and the oxygenated blood passes from the left atrium into the left ventricle via bicuspid valve. This event is followed by ventricular systole or ventricular contraction. At this point, the atrioventricular valves are shut to prevent the backflow of blood. During ventricular systole, the deoxygenated blood passes from the right ventricle into the lungs for oxygenation via pulmonary artery, and the oxygenated blood passes from the left ventricle into the aorta via aortic valve. Then, from the aorta, the oxygenated blood is provided to every part of the body. The cardiac cycle is completed in one heartbeat, and since there are 72 beats per minute, the cardiac cycle is repeated 72 times in a minute. Now let's learn about the SA node. This is the sinoatrial node, which is also known as the pacemaker of the heart. It is responsible for initiating the heartbeat And as you can see in the diagram, it is present in the top wall of the right atrium. So basically, the SA node generates electrical impulses that are spreaded to the right and the left atrium by the help of Batchman's fibers. These electrical impulses are then received by the atrioventricular node that is present in the bottom wall of the right atrium. These electrical impulses are spreaded in the left and the right ventricles from the AV node by the help of bundle of His, which are further divided into Purkinje fibers. The SA node brings about the contraction of the left and the right atrium, whereas the AV node helps in the contraction of the left and the right ventricles. The electrical impulses take about 0.04 seconds to travel from the SA node to the AV node. Then they spread into the ventricles within 0.11 second. In 1 minute, the SA node produces about 72 impulses. Now let's talk about the sounds of the heart. Lub and dub are the two sounds of a normal human heart. The lub sound is produced due to the closing of the AV valves, whereas the dub sound is produced due to the closing of the semilunar valves. Lastly, let's briefly discuss the ECG or the electrocardiogram. In the diagram, you can see a single wave for a normal ECG. So first of all, we need to learn that in the language of ECG, depolarization refers to contraction and repolarization refers to relaxation. The P wave represents atrial depolarization, the QRS complex represents ventricular depolarization, and the T wave represents ventricular repolarization. Atrial repolarization is overlapped in the QRS complex. These were some basic pointers on the ECG. If you wish to have a detailed video on it, do let me know in the comments below. This was it for today's lecture. I hope it was a beneficial one for you. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to the Education Hub. See you in the next part. Allah Hafiz.